Hi, everyone. My name is Adebowale Banjo. I'm co-founder, CEO at mycover.ai, and we are building Africa's digital insurance infrastructure. For the latest news on insurance technology in Africa, keep listening to InsurTech Business Series and stay updated.
Welcome to the InsurTech Business Series podcast. I am Fulumi.
And I am Damola. And together, we host the most exciting podcast on insurance and InsurTech related topics in Africa. Stay tuned.
And today is a special one. This is someone that I've known for a bit, and he's been on this insurance technology journey for some while. Some will call him an OG in this line. Let me leave the introductions to him when we start off the conversations, right? Welcome, Devo.
Hi, Adedamola. Thank you for having me.
We were just speaking before we started this conversation about your journey in the space, and we look forward to hearing all of that, in this conversation. It's been interesting for the InsurTech ecosystem so far. We've seen a lot of growth over the years, and super excited to see what you are building with mycover.ai. But yeah, how are you doing? How has it been? This year has been running so fast. How are you coping?
Well, I'm well. I'm doing great. Like you said, it's been a super fast year. Came into this year looking to do a lot of things, and we hit the ground running. But it seems the year did as well. It's running. So here we are, Q1 gone already. But I think it's been interesting. We've been able to get some things going already. So we're excited about how the year is shaping up.
And to kick off the conversation, right, we want to know about Debo. Who is Debo? Who is the man behind all of these things that you're building at mycover?
Okay, so Adebowale Banjo, most people call me Debo. Some will say business mind. I'm married. I have 2 kids. Been married for slightly over a decade now.
Wow.
Yeah. In terms of my journey, started my career in banking, in corporate banking, and then did some consulting as well. I've spent most of, if not all of it, actually, in growth, strategy, business development. And that's sort of shaped, how I think about business, shaped how I, look at commerce and just partnerships and everything. Because my entire career has been structured in that way, right? So I worked for a bank, worked for a consulting firm, did largely consultations for FMCGs, the likes of Unilever, Promoseed, all the top guys. And then added business development for an e-commerce platform, a telecoms platform, and also like a venture studio before eventually stumbling into insurance somewhat.
Stumbling, right? Okay.
And then it took off from there. So I'm sure you know this. In 2014, Nigeria's first InsurTech platform was formed, right? Auto Genius. And somewhere, I think circa 2016, I met the founder and we had a conversation, and it was like, they'd like me to come on board and get the ship going. So up until that time, my insurance knowledge was pretty much, what I had gotten from the bank in terms of risk management and, just everyday knowledge, nothing too deep, right? And then I came on board. It was then an auto insurance comparison platform, which was way ahead of its time in terms of where the market was, where regulation was, and even the product in terms of tech. But the product wasn't bad, but the market just wasn't ready for it. So came into that, and it was just intriguing, right? I started realizing very quickly that this was something that, you had to actively sell, because nobody wants to buy insurance. Nobody wakes up to buy insurance, right? And then, taking a deep dive into first, the perspective of people towards insurance, the expectations of the regulation of the regulators and their own limitations as well. And then, of course, the players in the industry. So it was a shock, to be sincere. And then I had to go learn. So I took a course in insurance, went get certified as an agent as well. Just trying to understand how the space works, the technicality of it. Because I always believe that to start business, you always must start from a place of knowledge, right? And whatever it is you do, you need to know to be able to give. So I spent a lot of time immersing myself in the insurance space, understanding, engaging stakeholders. And I think by the time that education process was complete, I knew that what we were doing wasn't going to solve the problems. There were institutional voice that I saw, apathy towards insurance, quite a number of things. And there's a lot more there, but just as an introduction, that's how I got in here. And since then, I've been solving this insurance problem, and I'm happy to see what the industry looks like today and where it can potentially get to.
Wow, your journey has been quite a long time coming, and I'm having to see that a lot of people are beginning to then accept the entire concept around, InsurTech, because again, even up until the 2020s, it didn't seem like InsurTech was anything tangible or anything to, look out or watch out for. Because again, this would lead me to the question of, I know you said you've worked in the bank, and then you've also worked, in the consulting sector as well. Why exactly did you then pick the InsurTech, and why do you think that there were opportunities in that space, even though the market wasn't ready for your business model at that time?
Yeah, well, to be candid, I didn't think I would do InsurTech. I never saw that coming. That's why I said I stumbled on it, right? I didn't set out thinking, oh, the next big thing would be insurance, so let me get ahead of the curve, or nothing like that. But like I said, after that introduction to insurance, it just became intriguing. And the more I understood insurance, the more concerned I was at the state of insurance in Nigeria, right? Now, when I look at how important insurance is, how Africa is a continent that needs insurance the most, and Africa is, severely underinsured, you understand what drives me. You understand what motivates me to keep doing this, because, startup life is not the easiest one you will find, but there's a big why. You see how you need to get people to that safety net that we all talk about and preach. So for me, I didn't set out thinking that, we're going to build an InsurTech company, but I think it happened, and the importance of it all makes it necessary, right? This is something that must happen for Africa. This is something that must happen for Nigeria. And I'm glad that it's not just us, but a different number of players as well that have come into this space to drive it. So it's something I'm excited about. But I would say that my, experience in banking, in consulting, have helped over the years, right? Because you're a summation of your experience, really. So when I look at problems, when I look at how we design the solutions to those problems, I think all of that experience comes to play, and it's helped us so far. Hi, everyone. My name is Adebowale Banjo. I'm co-founder, CEO at mycover.ai, and we are building Africa's digital insurance infrastructure. For the latest news on insurance technology in Africa, keep listening to InsurTech Business Series and stay updated.
Some of the reviews that we've done for other InsurTech that are outside our own client, we've seen that a lot of people that are coming in to then disrupt the space, like the insurance space, or that are, trying as much as possible to collaborate and partner, are people that are outside that industry, coming in to bring in new perspective, fresh mind, and how it's been done and advanced, in other sectors. So, again, like you said, yes, I would expect that, the knowledge you've acquired from banking and that you've acquired from consulting, again, they say experience makes the man, would then help reshape how you then approach, your business, which is good. So this then brings me to the second question. So you did mention about your understanding of the market, because I'm sure that the initial business that you set out, the initial business model that you set out to deploy was then transformed into, I don't know if it's an entirely different business model now, like if there was a complete overhaul, moving from Autogenius to now, mycover AI.
Yeah, absolutely. That journey is something that I'm definitely interested in.
Okay. So interesting thing is, so first, these are two separate entities, right? But before that, right? So my co-founder and I met while at AutoGenius. So he came in as well, then to do operations, and then it evolved into products. And then our CTO now used to work for the engineering firm that was basically handling the tech for us. So it was the lead engineer over there at the time. So in our interactions, we sort of became close. But I think the change came. I remember I was just thinking about this whole space. All right, checking what was going on all around the world and what we were doing. And then I remember having a conversation with Alex, who's my co-founder, and I said to him that imagine, we building an engine that powers insurance across. At that time, we are saying in Nigeria, something that looks like almost like what InterSwitch and NIBS are doing for payments. So everyone wants to do insurance, it passes through this infrastructure. People who want to underwrite products, it's done through this infrastructure. But that would really be big. And then you can get people who are not necessarily into insurance to get into insurance and then distribute insurance for, to their own customers. It was such an exciting idea at the time. And I remember I was spending a couple of weeks just putting all of this together. In fact, by the time we were done, I think, can't remember who I was talking with one day, and I said, almost every insurance product I see in the space now is on that document, right, that Alex and I put together in the initial stage, right? So we sort of dimensioned everything as to what can possibly be in terms of solving this problem. And then we found ourselves saying, look, it's okay for there to be many opportunities in this space. I think it's a good thing. It shows how huge a market this can potentially be across the continent. But we need to focus around infrastructure. So we built our business primarily around three main problems. One is product development and underwriting. And what led to that was at the time when we were doing AutoGenius, we were basically selling the insurance products as they existed. So what the insurance companies had, we just distributed. And we're using technology to reach more people, display those products to them. But we found that there was a gap between what people really wanted and what the insurance companies were building. And that information, so we had we did focus group activities. We actually even did a proper research to find out how people interacted with insurance, what they wanted from insurance, or if they would even use insurance at all. And based on that, we realized that there was a major gap between the kind of products that people wanted and what insurance companies were building. So we said, how do we address this? So there needs to be co-creation of products. So we need to go back to insurance companies and say, look, there's a product out here that the market wants. We think we can co-create it with you. But in addition to that, would also help you distribute it. So we decided to test with a couple of products just to test that concept. And it worked, right? And what we had found in doing that was the insurance companies at that time, were just set in their ways. Now things are a lot different. There's a lot of innovation, even though, there's still room for improvement. But comparing now to then, the huge gap. So the insurance companies at the time, they were just set in their ways. They had comprehensive insurance, travel insurance, everything was the way it was. I remember, I think 3 years ago or so, or even maybe longer, I had a conversation with a couple of insurance companies talking to them about how monthly comprehensive insurance was the way to go. And most of them kicked against it. And today we have a pay per minute. Comprehensive insurance is now even so highly priced that you are forced to make people pay in installments, right? So those are the conversations we had back then, but it just seemed like they were not ready. What we then did was, okay, let's pick one or two products and test. And I think that was the best decision we made in terms of convincing them on co-creation, because the traction that we then got immediately after that made them more open, right, to listening to us, opened us up to a lot more partnerships as well with insurance companies out there. So that's the first problem, product creation and underwriting. And the second problem is distribution. So, right, so excellent. You've created these amazing products, they fit the market, there's a demand for it, but how do you then get it to the customer? So for us, we were looking at, okay, yes, there's direct to consumer, which typically what AutoGenius was back then. You build a platform and you do marketing and get people to come to the platform. Or do we take these products to these people through embedded insurance, right? Do we partner with institutions or innovators that have access to these customers that already serve them in one form or the other, and then embed insurance into their own offering. So it's easy for first the customers, the end users to see or have access to the product. Secondly, to engage. And thirdly, to trust, right? Because they are not just seeing this from a typical traditional insurance platform. They are seeing this from a platform that they are familiar with, that they have come to trust over a period of time. So we built the second part of our solution right around embedded insurance and distribution. And the third bit is around customer experience, and which you would say maybe utilization and claims management. So those are the three pillars, the three problems that we saw, and we've built our solution to address them.
Okay, all right. So product development, creation, distribution, and enhancing or improving that customer experience for players leveraging technology, right? So all three are connected, right? And very interesting approach to how you're doing this, right? But I'm honing in on distribution, which is something that is a huge pain. Looking at the level of penetration in Nigeria, less than 0.5%. And just like you said at the top of the session, it's a solution that we need, providing that cushion for customers. Yes, embedded insurance is a very good approach, and we see a lot of interesting implementation of this. Last year, AXA and Airtel launched an embedded solution where insurance is embedded in internet data that you buy normally. Speaking to the points that you mentioned about, this is something that people already engage with and they enjoy. But the question that still remains is, how do you make some of these things work properly so that we are having a large number of people get access to this solution that they actually need, providing them with the cushion that they need so that they're not falling back into poverty? How are you approaching it, looking at embedded insurance, that you're able to get more people the insurance that they actually need?
There are a number of ways, but I think that maybe the easiest one to pick is first maybe identifying the right partners. So interesting thing that you mentioned, the Airtel and AXA thing. I remember a couple of years ago, an insurance company partnered with a telco as well. I remember the specifics now, but they onboarded like millions of users in no time before Nikon shut it down. And there was this thing around airtime is not legal and all of that.
Yeah. Sorry, I know. Folumi has. Yeah.
That was connected.
Yeah. And that was really impressive. But again, regulation and being slow around this kind of thing sort of put an end to that. Now, telcos are like gatekeepers. They have tens of millions of users. It makes sense to route insurance through telcos. Unfortunately, we are where we are at the moment, where there's still some, even though there's some partnership that is not as robust as it ought to be because of the limitations. But I think for us, it's saying, okay, look, that's one cadre of partner. There are other partners, there are other people. So for us, for instance, we did a partnership with Bolt. And the idea behind it was, this is a platform that empowers people. This is a platform that has access to thousands of drivers who are not in structured employment and are exposed to risk every time they go on the road. They have their, breadwinners, which means they have dependents and a bunch of things. So how do we provide insurance to these people? So it's creating products that, one, offers them, some sort of job security in that if anything happens, you can get back on the road as quickly as possible. Offers, the dependents some form of comfort should the worst happen as well, because there's an element of life insurance, there's health insurance that helps you just, maintain your day-to-day well-being, right? So I think for us, it's identifying partners like that would have access to a captive audience, and the audience have no other way of getting this done because they are not in paid employment. Most people who have insurance, they have it because they're in paid employment. They're in a structured organization where health insurance is a given, group life insurance, and all the likes. And those who have maybe auto insurance is because they don't want the police to stop them. So you find that most of the insurance is found within the corporate organization. So for us, is how do we get those who are not in that structure to onboard into insurance? Going to them directly, one is will require a lot of education, would require, us jumping a lot of hoops, right? So partnering with either a service that they use directly to earn their income or that they get some benefits from, we felt like was a good and interesting way to go. And we did that with both. Done a couple more after that. And there's a partnership we're doing with a company that helps with waste management, recycling. And what we are doing, these waste pickers, they pick waste from different people and they earn cash. What we are doing is some element of that is now set aside for health insurance. So as you pick your waste on a regular basis, with that also comes health insurance for you. So it's in the natural course of doing your work. You don't really have to do anything. You don't have to make an act purchase or make a decision. I think for where the market is in terms of knowledge and education, we need to first do things at that level first, where it's almost like the decision has been made for you, but you have the options, right, to pick maybe a higher plan, a lower plan, a more robust benefit, that kind. But the action required to trigger this is not a lot. It's not you filling forms. It's not you onboarding. It's embedded into what you're doing. So there are a couple more partnerships like that we've done. And I think that for us is how we are looking at it is the kind of partners we pick is really, really important to the success of embedded insurance. Because we've also tried some partnerships today where people actually embed our infrastructure and then try to sell insurance to people. Some of it has worked, some not so well. But we found that the best model is one where there's really either little or no need for the customer to do much on their own side.
As it work, I know that we've had conversation around embedding insurance for people to buy, and maybe that would also drive the penetration rate, especially here in Africa, because people don't necessarily value insurance, but it is a necessity. Having embedded insurance in all of this partnership and all of these products that you offered, have you actually seen an improvement in terms of sales, in terms of participation?
Has it worked? Simple answer, yes. Is it where it ought to be? Another simple answer, no. And I tell people, Damola and I have had these conversations countless times. Insurance is the real grind, right? You have to grind this out. It's a lot of hard work because there's such a huge gap between what insurance is and its importance to people and what people's interpretation of insurance is. And I think that understanding, that knowledge is critical to seeing the kind of growth that we really want to see. I say this to people that when people have tested insurance, you don't have to preach to them. They just grow by themselves. Once they've experienced how insurance works and the impact on their lives, whether it's on their health or its finances, it's just, I had a conversation with a CTO of a company the other day. And, interestingly, it was how his wife had given birth on a plan and then she had to go through CS and a number of things. And then the insurance company, just sorted it out. It was easy, it was smooth. And the guy just went on. And, those guys could do no wrong in his eyes, right? It just wants insurance for everything. Now that's coming from a place of experience. It's almost like how you go into the malls and you have these people, they call them like experiential activations. They are there, there's a new town and they say, oh, taste it. Then when you taste it, you be like, oh, this is good. Can you get me a pack, right? I feel like that's almost how we have to dole insurance out at this moment.
Yeah, right.
People have to experience it to really value it. Right? A lot of what we say at this moment is a promissory note. Oh, if you do this, insurance is good for you. But until people really experience it, they're never really truly convinced.
Talking about the experiential part, I also wanted to come from a point of, I know we have trust issues, especially in Nigeria, right? But the aspect of utilizing like heavy marketing content like testimonials and referrals, do you think that is like a business aspect that a lot of InsurTech or businesses are not looking at? And do you even think that those testimonials and referrals actually work?
I think they do work, right? But you also need to look at these things from two sides of the table, right? The insurance companies have been around longer than any InsurTech, right? Some even longer than InsurTech founders themselves. And they've tried this thing and it just hasn't worked for them. So you understand that there's some PTSD attached to this thing in their own minds as well. I remember 2018-ish talking to one of the leaders at an insurance company, and it was like they had just spent 80 million at the time on a marketing campaign. And, they didn't really get much for it. And he was the guy that had just come back from an Ivy League school trying to push innovation within the team. So they had created this unit for him. He was driving innovation and all. So they gave him this budget and he went all out, spent, over 80 million. And when it was time to give his report, there was no result. Now, that kind of person, when you go to him and say, oh, let's do marketing, he has PTSD. He'll struggle to move with you, right? So, but that's not to say that, we shouldn't do. We do marketing, but we do what you call growth marketing. We target it at returns very, very aggressively, right? And there's a skill for that as well. But I think that generally there are innovative ways to do this. Some of the things we've found is within communities, when you're able to build a community and then someone I remember a few years back, we launched like a platform where we just sort of put people who use the plan, and we put it on Telegram at the time. And some people would just come and give their testimonials and just talk about how, this platform had helped them, one way or the other, right? And those kind of testimonials, because it's a community, this is someone you can feel, you can touch, you almost know like where he lives. It's easier to resonate with you, right? Than how those days when they show you one beautiful lady that is using one soap to look beautiful, like she's not using the soap, right? So a lot of times, even when you see some of the ads, people have their doubts as to the authenticity of the message, right? So what we have seen work is within communities, right? Community building. I gave the example of the recycling company that we are working with. So we've done a number of road shows with them. So our infrastructure is embedded into the platform of the recycler itself, right? So they don't interact with our own platform, but when they do events, when they do trainings, when they do all of those kind of things, we are present. We do that with a number of partners as well. I mean, one of my team members, Damola knows her, she just got back from Kano, doing a road show with, even though we are doing technology, right? We're doing infrastructure, but there's a lot of hard work that also goes behind the scene, right? Boots on ground, just to spread the message, right? And then when you go to some of these places, you find that there are questions that you would be able to resolve just because you are close, right? As against when you're in your office and you're doing endpoints, calling endpoints, right? So they do work, but they require a lot more work than you would typically find, like maybe a e-commerce or a savings platform. That's easy to do. But like I always say, if you want to do insurance, you must be ready to do the work. It's just simple and short. Yeah. There's no ways around it.
Hi, and I hope you did enjoy that conversation. Quite interesting one. Do ensure that you continue to listen to our podcast and share as well with your colleagues and friends future episodes and even previous ones on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, on every platform that you get your podcasts.
Right, and also don't forget to join the conversation on all of our social media platforms. We might have comments, reviews, as well as questions. Please do share on our LinkedIn page, on our Twitter page, as well as remember to follow us.